Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Accepting Reality. Jake, how are you doing?
Oh, quick intro.
Very
Yeah,
quick.
good, good. How
Yeah,
are you?
well, because there's one topic that we're going to start
Deep
with,
breath.
whatever happens.
Deep breath.
And yeah, well, everyone needs to hear this, and I need to rant, and everyone needs to feel better. Okay. So don't, that was a Joe Biden statement. Didn't make sense. Okay. So the
There we
topic
go.
we want to start with is regarding Major League Baseball. And for anyone who knows me, baseball is by far my favorite sport to watch. It's my favorite sport to follow. Um, Hands down, I think it's just my favorite sport. I love everything about it. And story came out, and obviously everybody knows we're in Pride Month. Yay. Because if you and there's no way unless you're living in a cave in Arizona that you don't know it's Pride Month. And even then they probably got the rainbow flag somewhere painted in the desert. Because it's shoved
Hmm.
down your throats. Every company on June 1st, like clockwork, switches their logo to a rainbow version of it, and then conveniently on July 1st it goes away. So I'll just leave that and let you do with that information as you will. But I want to talk about, so now even baseball teams are doing what's called a Pride Night, where they modify their uniforms and their logos to the rainbow flag. And some players on the Tampa Bay Rays, now Tampa Bay Rays are pretty good. They've been good the past couple of years. They made the World Series in 2020. Um, they're a small market team, so they don't spend a lot of money like as other teams do, and they're always competitive. So the Rays had this night scheduled, and five players on the Tampa Bay Rays, I believe they're all pitchers. Their names were Jason Adam, I know him because he was on the Chicago Cubs for a while, and the Cubs are the team, my favorite team. Jalen Beeks, he is another, I believe he's a relief pitcher. Brooks Raley is a closer for them at some points. Jeffrey Springs is another pitcher, and Ryan Thompson, I believe, is another pitcher. So all five of these guys are five of their pitchers. Approached the manager of Tampa Bay. His name is Kevin Cash, and he said that they came up as a group and said, "We don't want to wear the logo, the pride infused logos. They'll just wear their regular hat and their regular jerseys. No one will even notice it, right?" So the manager said, "Fine, no problem. Not going to get in the way." Media goes nuts. I mean, every article from every outlet, Tampa Bay Rays, homophobia, Tampa Bay Rays, which, by the way, the term homophobic makes no sense. I am not irrationally afraid of anybody who wants to do that. Phobia is an irrational fear. Everybody, look it up in the dictionary. It's from the Greek language. Anyways, media blows up. So then the five players ask one player to make a statement on all of their behalf, which is probably a good thing. So they didn't get five answers that the media could dissect. And they chose Jason Adam. So he makes this statement here. Now, I'm going to read his full statement, and then I'm going to read to you what all the left leaning websites are posting. Okay.
Okay.
So Jason Adams says a lot of it comes down to faith, to like a faith based decision. He continues on. So it's a hard decision because ultimately we all said what we want is them to know that all are welcome and loved here. But when we put it on our bodies, he's referencing the logos that Tampa Bay has that become infused with the pride flag. When we put it on our bodies, I think a lot of guys decided that it's just a lifestyle that maybe not that they look down on anybody or think less of them. It's just that maybe we don't want to encourage it if we believe in Jesus, who's encouraged us to live a lifestyle that would abstain from that behavior. Just like Jesus encourages me as a heterosexual man to abstain from sex outside the confines of marriage. It's no different. It's not judgmental. It's not looking down. It's just what we believe the lifestyle he's encouraged us to live for our good, not to withhold. But again, we love these men and women, we care about them, and we want them to feel safe and welcome here. Would you say that's a pretty reasonable, pretty respectful response,
Yeah.
right?
I
Yeah.
mean, you could tell that he also could anticipate what people might say about any answer that he gave. I think that's why he maybe put part of it where he talked about it's not judgmental,
Yeah.
because I think he could foresee people calling him someone, and him and these other players, you know, judging
Yeah.
others
Yep.
by their orientation. But yeah, that was good.
So That's the full quote. That's the, and by the way, I had to dig like 5 pages in on Google to find an article with the full quote. So let's go to ESPN. Let's go to, ESPN, or as a few people have called them, MSNBC with footballs. So ESPN released the quote, and it's the same. The first paragraph is the same, but then it ends with, if it's just that maybe we don't want to encourage it if we believe in Jesus, who's encouraged us to live a lifestyle that would abstain from this behavior. End. That's not where that sentence ended. That sentence ended with, let me go back to it. Just like Jesus encourages me as a heterosexual male to abstain from sex outside the confines of marriage, it is no different. So they misquote him. They change the statement, because in the official statement and his real statement, the sentence, if we believe in Jesus, who's encouraged us to live a lifestyle that would abstain from that behavior, it's a comma, and then it goes into the part about him being a heterosexual male. On ESPN, it says, if we believe in Jesus, who's encouraged us to live a lifestyle that would abstain from that behavior, it's a period. They just cut out that part.
Yeah.
That's wrong.
Right.
That is completely wrong. And then it carries on. And then they have the next paragraph saying it's not judgmental, it's not looking down, but they completely omitted that part. Now, why are you omitting that part? What are you trying to hide? That he's a good Christian? Are you trying to hide more Christian values? Are you just trying to make him look like a jerk? This is ridiculous.
Right.
Like, what? Why
So
are they allowed to get away with that? That's my first question.
I think it's interesting that it's kind of ironic that this is a story about somebody and people, a small group of people,
Yep,
who have decided to express their own opinions about a certain subject. But this month, Pride Month, the whole reason for it, at least for the face value, is to, quote, celebrate the people for choosing their own individuality.
Yep.
So you have a month that is centered around people choosing, quote, their freedom and to express who they are, yet you're criticizing somebody who's expressing his beliefs and what he believes to be true.
Yep.
So I mean, the irony is so obvious that, and even for ESPN, I get that a lot of things in the world right now, whether it's ESPN or a news network or another sports affiliated station or website, they all have to put their own 2 cents into, political issues and things like that. But for ESPN, and even though it's a baseball team, for them to make a big story out of this and to center a quote that somebody said about it just means that they know that it's going to get negative reactions from people reading it, majority, because the majority of people who read that, if they aren't intelligent enough to find the real quote,
yep,
they know that the majority of people are going to read that and think, well, these guys are a bunch of jerks. Therefore, they're going to then celebrate ESPN for giving them the information to make it. I mean, it's just
people.
it's a whole big circle.
Yep. Because and that's a good point, is at least for me, if I just read the ESPN quote, I would feel differently than when I read his full quote. Because he talks about real chastity, which is what Christ, Christianity has taught. And he brings it up that the LGBT movement is not the only thing that, like, for example, basically Jesus did not single that out. There are plenty of sins that straight men and straight women can fall into that are evil. And that was the full quote. That's what it's supposed to point out, that he's saying that he can be as guilty of just as many sins, but they don't want to show you that, because they don't want to give this person any sort of redeeming value, because they want the hate, they want the division, they want these guys to get shamed out of Major League Baseball. Even though I looked it up, they're all pitching like really well. They're all like in the top half of the team, so they're not going anywhere, liberals.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the whole indicator, is that even if they are doing something that the rest of the world or majority of people think is bad, if the team really thought that it was bad publicity enough, they would do something about them being on the team, but they don't, because, well, one, they obviously agree and respect their decision to not wear this patch on their jersey.
Yep.
And two, they're helping the team.
Yep.
So again, this is kind of how ESPN should view this. The team, the Tampa Bay Rays, are looking at it and saying, okay, yes, they are making this decision. They didn't walk out onto the field and rip the patch off and throw it on the ground.
Yeah,
I mean, they
and
did
light
it
it on
in
fire.
the right. They did it in the best way possible, but they're helping us as an organization. So why would we do anything about them? And that's what ESPN should do. ESPN should say to themselves internally, there's no big story with this other than they're calmly
Christian
and politely letting us know what they want us to do. But yet they're athletes. They're good athletes. They're helping their team. Yep. But let's turn this around to make it look like they're a bunch of bad people.
Yeah, well, that's what they want, because there's no room to be tolerant for Christianity on the left. And if you disagree with that, anyone who's listening disagree with that, you can call me. I'll give you my personal phone number, because you're wrong. Okay, there is no tolerance for Christianity and the modern left. Okay, so this quote came out, right? And I believe it was yesterday or Tuesday. ESPN has a program called Around the Horn, where there's a moderator, and the moderator brings up topics, and there's 4 ESPN writers on, and the moderator gives points based on the writers. So, or like based on what the writers are saying, they give their opinions, and the guy determines a quote unquote winner. It was a fun show when I was younger. I used to watch it all the time. So I haven't watched it in like years, though, probably like 7 years now. But
yeah.
So this woman, her name is Sarah Spain. She originally started in ESPN Chicago. I remember hearing her give updates on ESPN Chicago radio when my dad and I would be driving to the dentist or the orthodontist or something that was a long drive away. So we just listened to AM radio the whole time. And I remember her giving updates. And now she's moved up to almost where she's full time on TV for ESPN. So she's been there like for 16 or 15 years, long time.
Mm-hmm.
She was on the show when they brought up this topic. And this is her quote. And again, I had to dig through a mine to find this. Okay. So she was the first one up when they brought up the Tampa Bay Rays story. And she began her statement saying, "Pride is about inclusion. So you do not love them and you do not welcome them if you're not willing to wear the patch." Strike one. We'll keep going. She then goes on to say, and I quote, "And calling it a lifestyle reveals to me that you've done not even a modicum of research or understanding on this topic." Strike two. It's what tends to happen when a privileged class isn't affected by things. This is not just about baseball. That religious exemption BS, that's strike three, and that's the worst strike of them all, which is used in sport and otherwise, also allow for people to be denied health care, jobs, apartments, children, prescriptions, and all sorts of rights. She continues. And then she says, quote, "So we have to stop tiptoeing around it because we're trying to protect people who are trying to be bigoted from asking for them to be exempt from it when the very people that they are bigoted against are suffering the consequences." Besides talking like a rambling idiot, she continues. She was then asked by the moderator, what does she mean by trying to be bigoted? Spain answers, quote, they're trying to use religious exemptions to affect the opportunities, services, available resources for people who are LGBTQ plus. She forgot the AAIP. That's strike 4. Okay, you don't even get 4 strikes in baseball, and she messed up that many times. So, what are your initial thoughts on that before I go crazy on her?
Well,
I can reread it if you want.
No. I heard you. I think it's well, the biggest thing that stuck out to me was that she used a lot of generalizations and a lot of direct, I guess, accusations. I mean, the part about when she said that people who are being denied health care and I don't get the whole children thing. That doesn't make any sense.
She's referencing adoptions because that Philadelphia orphanage that's run by nuns has refused same-sex couples.
Then right there. So the problem is that, and this is what people do a lot of time. Yes, they do generalizations, but was just having a conversation about this with somebody the other day at work. And this is along the same lines of when people say that, like, feminists use a generalization to say, well, look at, you know, there's only 2 women in the top 500 Fortune 500 companies, the owners. So therefore, that's because men control the space and men are prejudiced against women. So you're taking just a group of 500 people and then using that example to structure your entire argument that all men are like this and this is how all society is. So right there, she is using these small examples like the one in Philadelphia, like you said, and I'm sure that she's grasping at straws to think of other things like healthcare and whatever she's talking about. If she means like medications or if she means surgeries, whatever, to make her point about, well, because this happened in one instance, that's how it happens everywhere, and that the only people that are a part of this are the people that use religion as like a shield
Yeah.
to cover up any kind of misinterpretations of what they might think the real situation is.
Yeah. Let me just first start out with strike one. Pride is about inclusion. So you don't love them and you don't welcome them if you're not willing to wear the patch. Why do you get to decide how I feel about
Mhm.
somebody? Why does Sarah Spain, this stupid idiot who works for ESPN, get to decide that because someone won't wear the patch because it makes them uneasy about their Christian faith? How come you get to decide then that symbolizes they don't welcome them? Do you know them? Do
Right.
you do you know them, Sarah? Since we like to go by specific, you know, specific examples to make a generalization about an outlier. Do you know how they treat people of the LGBTQ AAIP elemental PXYZ community? Do you know? Because okay, so that's the first one. That's just complete logical fallacy. Complete. If that was said in court, it would be struck down immediately by a lawyer. All right. Strike two. It tends. This is not just about baseball. That religious exemption BS. I'll just stop the quote there. It wasn't the full sentence. I know. It is despicable to me that people would accuse people of faith that their religion is nothing but a shield to be mean and to be evil. It is statistically proven, and I don't have the studies here, but I'll get them and post them to our page, that people of religion donate more. They're overall more charitable. They give more money. They spread more money around their family. They pass more money down. Now, is that just a coincidence? Could be, but right now the numbers say otherwise. So this is not religious exemption BS. Sarah Spain, ESPN, former ESPN Chicago, who advertised on eBay that the highest bidder got to be her date to the Super Bowl when the Bears played the Colts. Yeah, I did a little research. That's ridiculous. And it's disturbing that that's said in America. No backlash from the mainstream media. None.
Yeah.
There's no
No.
accountability from her. The only places you will find it are actual journalists or people who are conservative. And that's it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. You keep going, but I have a question about something I thought she said later on in that segment.
The part about calling it a lifestyle says you've never done any sort of research or understanding on the topic. Is it proven that these people are 100% wired that way? Is it proven, like without a shadow of a doubt, not like some psychologist saying it who's got 4 gender studies degrees who say that
Mm-hmm.
5-year-olds can change their gender? I want like real hard evidence, because last I checked, there is no real hard evidence. So that's a generalization. That's not a truth. That can't be factually backed up. And then the part about healthcare, jobs, apartments. What apartment complex has denied somebody because they have a roommate or someone of the same gender? Please find it, because I'll help you, because that is wrong. And I don't think it happens. Maybe once every 5 years, some random person in the South gets pissed off at him and he kicks him out. But I don't think that these people are denied health care or denied apartments because Christians don't want to wear the flag.
Yeah, the apartment thing, I don't know. I could see somewhere the healthcare aspect coming into play, but doesn't she say later on? I thought, like, because when I watched this video, the moderator, I noticed, seemed a little surprised and almost not very in agreement with her.
Well,
He kind of
he's
was like trying to get her to really explain herself
backtrack.
because
Yeah.
right.
A
And
little Let me stop.
go
A
ahead.
little information on that guy. He's a devout Catholic because whenever Ash Wednesday would come around, he would do the show and he'd have ashes on his head. So
Okay.
I
Well,
maybe
you can
maybe
tell
there's something to it. But go ahead.
because his tone. I mean, you can tell that he didn't want her to just leave it right where it is. I mean, he wanted to find out more because he didn't like what she said. But I thought she says later on this little blurb that a lot of people use that makes absolutely no sense to me is she tries to, I thought she says something about and I'm paraphrasing here, but she basically says that other people who are religious accept people of the LGBTQ community, and therefore these pitchers for the Tampa Bay Rays are in the wrong because
Oh,
there are people who are religious that do. So the argument is you have a group of people that agree with one thing that you disagree with, and you say you're the same religion. So let's say it's you and we both say that we're Catholic, but
yep,
in this off distant parallel universe, you support something that I don't, and
yep,
it's tied to our religious belief. Now, if I tell a third party person, if I tell them, if they were to ask me, hey, what do you think about this subject? And I was to say, well, I don't agree with it. And they know that you do, for them to say, well, David does, and you're both Catholic. So
yeah,
why don't you? Okay, why don't you ask David
yes, yeah,
why he doesn't agree with me?
yep,
Why does it always have to be because because I don't agree with the third party person and David does, that means that I'm wrong.
yep.
And I've used that argument about, or I've seen that argument used about a lot of things like this, especially is, and a lot of things about free speech too, is that they know somebody somewhere, they've come across someone in their life that was quote unquote Catholic that supported people
Yep.
of the LGBTQ community. And because of that, that means that anybody who's Catholic or religious that doesn't support them is wrong.
Yeah, those people, well, one, I'd call them fake Christians or not Christians because it says
Well,
very
right, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Bible that it's an abomination. It's a sin that cries out to God for vengeance. And I don't apologize for anything that I've said on this podcast. I'd be more than happy to have anyone on here to talk to us about it. Anyone. Um,
I just
I
think it's I just think when you take somebody else's belief, like you're like she's criticizing the Tampa Bay Rays pitchers for using their religion as an excuse, that's what she calls it, as an
yeah,
excuse to not wear this patch and not support this Pride Month. But she's going to use the same religion to, in the same breath, denounce what they've done. How does that make sense? She's criticizing the religion for something that she doesn't agree with, but
yep.
she's using the same religion to support her position. Absolutely makes no sense.
Well, that's the left. It has to be their worldview, and their worldview, the LGBTQ alphabet soup, is the only group that matters. It is the
Yeah.
only group that matters. They must be praised and put on an altar
Well,
above all things.
and that's the real danger is when we have something as high as of an importance in our society as this Pride Month, and you really trickle it down, and the branches start to really spread out, and you kind of go deeper and deeper and deeper to what the issue is. This is what it is that you have, and this is the same with Black Lives Matter, you have these organizations and these quote causes that are so powerful to people that they will not consider any of their own individual beliefs, and they identify with the group. There is no more individual identity. It's all
Oh,
the group.
individual thought is dead. Yeah.
If you are a gay person, you're not an individual gay person. You're part of the LGBTQ community. And if the LGBTQ community doesn't agree with something, that means you don't agree with something.
Yep.
And the reason this is so dangerous is because this was done about 100 years ago, and it resulted in about 85 million people die.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that if you keep letting people of Black Lives Matter and of the LGBTQ community continue these things that millions of people are going to die, but the ideas behind why they're doing things are the exact ideas that was in Mao's China and Stalin Russia and Nazi Germany. And,
Yep.
I mean, this is exactly what it comes down to. And this is why it's so dangerous. It doesn't have to do with us accepting people. It has to do with us finalizing what they believe to be true and how far they will go to make sure that people within their group, within their society, within their tribe agree the same way and do what they say.
It's all about affirmation. And if I scroll down a little more and I found the part, so she got challenged by another one of the writers. And she said, and I quote, "In the case of sport, no. In the case of sport, though, they are double talking if they're saying you're welcome while also saying that we don't encourage or we disagree with it, especially when there are devout people of every single religion that also welcome and are open to people who are born gay."
Yeah, there it is.
Okay. Okay. Let me just, easy example. Devout Muslims stone them, behead them, and throw them off of buildings.
Mm-hmm. All religions.
There is no devout Muslim who has welcome to them, or they, and you know what they think? They think it's disease. They think it was because you were punished by God. They don't think it was, they don't think you were born that way. Okay. So Sarah Spain, again, resident idiot at ESPN, that is not true. Okay. And devout Catholics, if you can find me a true devout Catholic who says this is okay to do, they're not devout Catholic.
Yeah. I mean, it's that simple.
Okay. It's the same reason why the Archbishop of, I believe it was San Francisco, said Nancy Pelosi can no longer receive communion.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason
After
that is because she wouldn't stop supporting abortion, and she is the Speaker of the House, and she instructed them to pass a bill that would have federally protected abortion.
Well, you know, and the thing with him is that he's been trying to get her to change her, like, for a while.
Yes.
I mean, he's been in constant communication with her to be like, listen, you need to
figure it out.
Like, so this isn't, so what the media likes to do is, the left media wants you to think is that he made this decision like all at once. And even
only
if he
because
did,
of this.
that's exactly what he should do. Like,
Yeah.
you don't have to go through a certain process to deny somebody Holy Communion. Canon law, I believe, it's canon law. Canon law states that it's the priest's duty to deny anybody
protect the
Holy Communion on the
sacrament.
spot.
Yes. Yep.
If they're immodestly dressed, if they're in scandal, whatever, and she obviously is.
If they're aware of some publicly known like thing that they're not repenting for, it is their obligation.
And he has tried to get her to switch. I mean, he's been like, listen, if you continue to do this, this is what I have to do. So there shouldn't be any surprise on her part. Not that she believes that Catholicism or the church is essential because of all the decisions she's made in her life and in politics, but it's just the whole, it's not reality. It's, we're going to forget everything he's tried to communicate with her about, and we're going to boil it down to, oh my gosh, he made this rash decision. What a horrible person. He's denying Nancy Pelosi's First Amendment right to religion and to, it goes on and on and on.
Yeah, it's crazy. Oh, and I'm reading this article. Sarah Spain, she's a special woman. Okay. She goes on Twitter and she said, bigoted beliefs disguised as religious exemptions, quote unquote, are BS. They're especially dangerous when they allow for people to be denied healthcare, jobs, housing, but also dangerous when used to reject inclusivity efforts in sports. Sending a message that not all are accepted. Did the Tampa Bay Rays stop anybody who was a member of the community from seeing the game?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right.
Yeah, no. I mean, how stupid do you have to be to believe this stuff? I'm sorry. I'm so fed up with people attacking religious exemptions and religious freedom because, every dictator, every evil person who's taken over a country, one of the first things they did after disarming, Second Amendment, after disarming the people was ban churches or burn churches down or not allow you to go to mass or not allow you to go to service or not allow you to go to Mecca because they don't want, why? Because they're so power hungry and so evil that the fact that you pray to somebody above them angers them.
Right. Well, it's the whole, if you have a citizen or just anybody in general who believes in a higher power,
Yep.
that the rules of that higher power trump whatever this dictator says,
Yep.
then those are the kind of people that aren't going to listen to you, and they want people that's going to listen to them, or not be afraid, or be afraid of them.
Or be afraid, yeah, because those who believe in Christ, they believe there's a heaven, and they believe if they die for Christ, they're going to heaven, and that they can't have those people in their new world order, because
Right.
this just drives me up the wall, because it
Yeah.
is so wrong.
Well, yeah. I mean, and the thing is that a lot of people. The one good thing about this situation that I think will happen is you have people that will what's the word, I guess, obtain extraordinary virtue and strength when they're pushed like this,
Yeah,
and grace, obviously. And like it brings up, so this past Sunday the sermon was about a martyr who I had not, I forget the name, I don't know her name, I never heard of it before, in the 300s, and it was a girl, she was 12, and I forget if it was in Rome. I really listened to the
I
sermon.
want to say Rome was still being persecuted. Christians were still being persecuted in Rome by then, so that's
Yeah, and
more
I don't.
likely the case.
I really did listen, but I forget. The moral that I wanted to bring up is that they had told the governor or the emperor or whatever had told this girl that if she would denounce her faith, then she'd be saved, and if she didn't, she would die. And they had a table with this pot of like salts and incense and everything that they wanted her to throw at a pagan statue, and that was going to be her like sign of um, acceptance for what the governor wanted her to do. So that was going to be her initiation, that's the word, to get rid of her Catholic faith. And she didn't say anything, and they were wondering what she was doing. And this she's 12, and she went over to the table and kicked it over, and it broke the statue. All the salt and the incense went all over the place, and that was in her, this 12-year-old, the strength that she got to defy them. And of course I mean, they tortured her and killed her, and I mean, did a whole bunch of horrible things. But you don't get that kind of strength if you don't have the grace that comes from that decision. It's that whole inner struggle that people have, but because you have somebody like that is such a great example, that inspires others, just like when our Lord was on the cross and he had inspired the thief who had repented and who is going to be with our Lord in paradise. And I think this situation with these pictures will let a lot of athletes or just general people know that yes, you can express what you believe without having to worry about backlash, because you're doing what you believe is right.
Yeah, and I hope that you're right, and I really hope, but I see the other side of the coin, that I think that the way the media is going around, and there's no accountability if you're a leftist in the society today, you can say whatever you want. I think it's all they're trying to intimidate people to stop doing this. That's the easiest way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, luckily this is sports, and sports and politics, there's always something that happens in the next couple of days that takes everyone's mind off of it. So I don't know if we'll really hear much about this
Yeah.
in the next couple of days, because somebody in left field that plays for the Red Sox will, I don't know, have a hot dog fall out of his glove or something, and that's going to be Sports Center's top 10, and everyone's going to forget about this. It's just how it is with sports and politics. But
Yeah, I hope so. I hope
see.
that people are more inspired, because every team's starting to do it. More and
Yeah,
more teams are starting
and they
to
should.
this Pride Night thing, silliness, and I hope that the players who, if they don't believe, if that's a choice, like it's a lifestyle that they don't want to condone, they should be allowed to opt out. And I support all the players, because it's not only Christianity, the Jewish faith is like that, and I obviously, in my heated this explanation, Muslims, we know what they do to
Mhm.
members of the alphabet mafia. So it's I've got
Never heard of that before.
I got names for these people because it's a mafia. It's the Gestapo. You have to support. If you don't wear the patch and you don't wear the hat, you're an evil person. So it's
Well, I mean, yeah, it's again, it's the irony that if you don't support a cause that is so quote unquote centered around expressing your individual beliefs and what you feel to be right, then you're wrong.
yep.
Like
That,
it's insane that they're telling you, the people that are campaigning for those people who have been told and shunned their whole life, apparently, that their decisions are wrong, that now they're
department.
telling you that you're wrong. I
Yeah.
mean, it's kind of funny when you think about it, when you boil it down.
I'm running out of words from the frustration because I'm still it's upsetting because these are good Christian men and they're trying to be a Christian. And I know Christ was persecuted, his followers have been persecuted for many, 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 many years. But it's discouraging because the founding fathers wanted this country to avoid that very thing. You know, they wanted people to have their own individual freedom of religion. And it's being taken away if we don't have a reaction and hold these reporters such as Sarah Spain accountable. You know, these people need to be called out and say, listen, this is, you don't get to say this and have nobody challenge. You know what I mean? Like it's,
Yeah, but I mean, look at it like this: the only way that people are going to know and to respect what the decisions some people have made, like these pictures, is to have these kind of stories blasted all over the news. I'm
that's
glad
true.
ESPN has like decided to write a whole article and post it on, and I'm sure millions of people have seen it, because
Yeah.
maybe that means that millions of people have agreed with them, and it furthers their stance, because they're like, you know what? Yes, there are guys who aren't afraid of what people think, of how they choose to live their lives. So,
Yeah,
just how you look at it.
that's a good way to put it. And
I hope ESPN does a story every night, because it's gonna legitimize what they're doing even more, because it's gonna show people that this is crazy, that
yeah,
you're making such a big deal out of this when they're not even being rude. I could see if they were like you said, like throwing on the dirt, burning it, saying
yeah,
that, using derogatory terms, but they're not.
no,
They're just doing it in the nicest way possible.
yep. But that's not good enough because they're not supposed to do it at all. But we could ring around this for hours on end. So I think we'll start to wrap it up. Um,
We got to
thank
end on a happy note. How long have we been going?
39 minutes.
Oh my gosh, we got to on a happy note. Jeez, oh man.
Find a good story. Think of something nice. Think of something good.
So this is why we need a content director.
Oh,
Um,
you need a content director.
Something happy, something happy, something happy. Um,
Can't think of anything, huh?
well, I'm kind of on the spot. Well, you know what? The dissemination of this express written consent,
No, you.
Spotify. I gotta write this down. No, I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, listen, I think the way that people are so focused on now, that this story is just going to pass. But like I said, I hope it continues, because I think, again, it gives more a bigger platform for these guys to double down. And I hope they do. I hope this doesn't turn out to be a situation where they come out and fold and say, well, for the betterment of the team and to show our Christian values, we're going to do it. I hope they don't,
Yeah.
because that would be, well, then we're going to have another episode about that. And then you need to not be in a room with glass or anything breakable if that happens, because
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm afraid you're gonna go
Alex
off.
Jones. Alex Jones.
So just
Yeah.
maybe sit in a rubber room or something. Have a little, those little stress things that you squeeze. You need that. I'm gonna send that to you.
I have a couple of them. Yeah.
Of course you do. Okay, well there you go.
There's your happy note. I am trying to manage my stress. So thank you everybody for listening. You can find us on Facebook and YouTube under DJ Media. The podcast name is Accepting Reality. That is on Amazon, iTunes, and Spotify. Thank
Yep.
you to all of our listeners. Apparently, we get a worldwide audience. I saw we had people from Russia and
Oh
consistent viewers from
yeah,
Australia. So
that's
that's
what,
pretty cool.
Australia, really?
Yeah, yeah, the Queensburg near
Ooh.
Wales, Australia. Yeah, pretty cool. Or New Wales, I should say. Wales is in London. I'm going to anger some people.
Where's Australia? All right, mate.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool to see that. Appreciate all the support. Again, DJ Media on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Accepting Reality, where all podcasts can be found. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you for the support. Have a good night.